know, your ass better call somebody.
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets Pregame Show right here on the channel, on X, and on Twitch. How is everybody doing on this Sunday, June 1st? That's right, baseball fans. That's right, Mets fans. We are in the month of June, the Mets' favorite month of the season. Apparently, history has shown that the Mets have not been good in the month of June, except for last year. And they're going to continue that hot streak and continued success in June from last year to this year as they finish up their homestand looking for the sweep of the Colorado Rockies, right? I don't care about karma, all right? If you play well, you do your job, you win ball games. Unlike the Knicks that played a terrible game, the New York Mets have played well at home, and they've been outstanding, basically almost unbeatable at home this season in 2025 at Citi Field, and they're outstanding. It's just amazing how good they've been at home, as they've struggled at home in years past, and they've just been outstanding. You know, they hovered around 500 on the road, which, again, look at teams in baseball. Look at the best teams in baseball. They also are around 500 at home. They usually dominate at home, and that's where the Mets have done this year. They've dominated at home. Even though they still haven't done well in runners in scoring position, they still find ways to win ball games at home. And that is almost everything, considering the fact that they have struggled with men on base and runners in scoring position. And look, yesterday was nice to see, right? They got some nice hits. They got some big hits. Obviously, Juan Soto looked like Juan Soto yesterday, which was nice to see. Hitting that ball to the opposite field and left center over the wall. That was nice to see. There was a lot of good signs from the Mets offense yesterday. But again, am I getting excited? Absolutely not. This is the Colorado Rockies, right? You're supposed to beat them. Every team in Major League Baseball is supposed to beat them. They got 9 wins this year. The Mets are looking to give them number 50th loss of the season, and the Mets looking for win number 37 and get the 15 games over 500. The New York Mets need to be better. And, you know, even though you got to win these games if you're the New York Mets, right? The Phillies, look how the Phillies won 9 in a row. They faced Pittsburgh. They faced the Rockies numerous times in a 14-game stretch. That's how the Phillies passed the Mets. They face very bad teams. And this is the opportunity for the Mets to face really bad teams and take advantage of that, especially when they're at home where they play their best at before they head out on the West Coast to play the Dodgers and back against Colorado in Colorado for a West Coast trip out there. So the Mets are in this 10-game stretch of no off days. There will be a 6-man rotation. Paul Blackburn looked like he's going to get a start tomorrow against the Dodgers, which I'm really not happy about. But the Mets seem to be, married to this idea of a 6-man rotation, and I don't understand it. But they're going to do it, and I'm still going to root for this team, right? I'm still going to watch it tomorrow. I'm still going to be hoping Paul Blackburn pitches a good game. But let's be quite honest. the Mets need to score runs, and they got to continue to do that against good pitching, bad pitching, doesn't matter. This team is made for the lineup. This team is made for the offense to carry this team the entire year. We're nearly 60 games into the season. We're in the month of June now, and the pitching has still carried the offense this entire season. You got the best ERA in baseball in Kodai Senga. David Peterson, I believe, is 5th in the National League, while Kodai Senga is leading the pack in ERA in the National League. The pitching is continuing to pitch well. Again, I still have my concerns about down the road and where they might struggle. I still believe this offense will carry this team in 2025, and I think it's going to be the main reason why the Mets continue their success this year as where they are right now, tied for first place in the NL East and in a nice spot playoff scenario-wise, even though we're not even 60 games into the season yet. I like to talk about it. I completely understand the fact that the New York Mets have issues. The offense has issues. Now, again, it was nice to see what they did yesterday, but I'm not going to go get excited as many people did against scoring runs, ton of runs about the Colorado Rockies. It should be done like that, and it should be expected to have runs scored against that team. And they got to do that again today. You know, I'll be even more excited if they come out and blow this team out of the water and sweep a series at home and have an 8-2 homestand. You have an 8-2 homestand. I don't care if it's against the White Sox. I don't care if it's against the Rockies. You mix in the Dodgers there, which, by the way, you know, all the people that were talking about the Mets not being a very good team, did you watch the Dodgers against the Yankees the last 2 games? It's kind of embarrassing. So where the Mets pitching did a really good job against the Dodgers offense, and you look at the Yankees, who are basically one of the best teams in the American League, looking like they're one of the worst teams in the American League or in baseball against an actually superior team like a team in the NL like the Dodgers. And the Mets took 2 out of 3, and you could say, oh, they were home, and the Yankees are on the road, blah, blah, blah. But the Yankees were supposed to have a retaliation, right? They were supposed to, you know, get back at the Dodgers for what they did in the World Series and all the talk that the Dodgers did against the Yankees. That is something that shouldn't be surprising. Because, again, when you face real competition, things happen. And we'll see how the Mets play against the Dodgers in LA, right? If the Mets don't look good in this 4-game series against the Dodgers, well, we'll have something to talk about, and you know for a fact I will kill them, right? This is a huge test going out to LA and facing the Dodgers, especially when you beat them 2 out of 3 in your home ballpark, and now you got the opportunity to win a series. And again, a 4-game series is not easy to win, right? More often than not, I would be happy going out of there with a split, to be quite honest with you, especially the way the Mets have played on the road. They've been, you know, hovering around that 500 mark all season. I would take a split, knowing that you go into Colorado and you take care of business there, even though Colorado, when you play in Colorado, anything can happen because of the thin air, and, you know, being in Colorado, a lot of runs can be scored regardless of if the team's good or bad. So I expect the Mets to show up, and this is why I don't like the Paul Blackburn pitching tomorrow, and that has been the indication that let me just double check one more time, because I believe they said Paul Blackburn is pitching tomorrow for the Mets, and I don't know if they confirmed it, and yeah, that's up there. All right, so they already put it on the MLB app that Paul Blackburn is pitching tomorrow. I don't like the fact that you're going to LA. Why couldn't you pitch Blackburn, you know, Tuesday or Wednesday? You know, like, the pitching right off the bat is kind of concerning to me, considering the fact that they don't have a day off. They're going through this stretch of 10 straight days of baseball with no off days. You know, this is a situation where we know how good the Dodger offense can be. You're watching it against the Yankees, how good they can be. They beat the best pitcher in baseball, Max Fried. They destroyed Will Warren, who was having a really good season since coming back from injury, and they destroyed the New York Yankees. So we know how good their offense can be. I don't like the fact going into a series that Paul Blackburn is going to start this game right away. Now, again, What I could be completely wrong, and Blackburn gives you a solid start, sure. But that's the team you want him to face right off the bat after all his rehab starts and coming back from injury? That's the team you want him to face? Like, that's not a vote of confidence unless he pitches really well. And you know what? Shut me up. I would love that, but I mean, come on. Yeah, Joel, I think honestly, I don't know why the New York Mets are doing that. Again, maybe they're uber confident in this team, regardless of who goes out there as a whole, as a team. I appreciate that. I love the fact that our manager, our president of baseball ops, believe in his team to the point where put somebody out there that is probably a fifth starter at best. He's going to be a sixth starter until Montas comes back, or Showman I. It looks like Montas is going to come back first. Then you'll decide who's going to be in this rotation. If Blackburn's going to be out or McGill's going to be out, that is something that we'll talk about down the road. But I just don't understand it, to be quite honest with you. Now, I know they're probably sticking to his schedule, and he probably lines up pitching, expected to pitch tomorrow, and that's why they did it, just the way it lined up. But they could have started, they could have set it up where he would be starting somewhere in his homestand against the White Sox or the Rockies, and they didn't do that, and you're going to face them on the road against the Dodgers. So I don't understand that. Joel, Joel, I agree. I agree with that. Like, I don't understand it. Like, but it is what it is. Again, this organization has been so confident in this team, even when Met fans, including myself, have been talking about the issues that the Mets could and will have throughout this stretch so far of 59 games, or going into the 59 game of the season. So I completely understand, I would rather them be confident in themselves like they have been. Like, they're showing a ton of confidence in this team, putting Paul Blackburn on the mound against the Dodgers in LA, while the Dodgers are just coming off a series win over the Yankees, and they could possibly sweep them playing the Mets tomorrow after they finish the Yankees. So it is something to watch. It is something to look for. But, as a fan, of course I'm going to be concerned with Blackburn on the mound against the Dodgers, but they feel confident. They believe in this team. Overall, that other aspects of this team is going to come through. Now, they probably believe in Paul Blackburn, at some level, but I don't believe, they give him truth serum. Do they really think Paul Blackburn's going to pitch well against the Dodgers? Like, if you can give truth serum to everybody in the organization, it'll probably be about 90% of them being he won't pitch well. Now, again, he can surprise us and pitch well. Like, I'm not asking for, he's probably not going to go past 5 innings. There's probably a pitch limit because he's coming back from injury, 80, 85 pitches, maybe. So you're looking at hopefully 4 or 5 innings. So that means you're already going to be going into your bullpen early on in this game, in game 1 of this 4-game set against the Dodgers, as well as it's a 10-game stretch of no off days, starting with, basically this series against the Rockies on Friday. You get a 10-game stretch of no off days. So I'm a little concerned, but the Mets have to take care of business finishing up their homestand today against the Colorado Rockies. And look, Carson Palmquist, we know how bad the Rockies have been. They have not been good at all. And that is the thing. Like, Paul Palmquist has a 8.78 ERA. All right. You got Clay Holmes on the mound. Clay Holmes should dominate this game. The Mets lineup should dominate Carson Palmquist. Like, there shouldn't be ifs or buts or excuses. That needs to get done. And Clay Holmes today, in the situation that I just talked about, and why I was leading up to the Dodger first game of the series involving Paul Blackburn, is that Clay Holmes not only has to dominate a lineup today, but Clay Holmes needs to go deep into this game. That's why I brought up the Dodgers series and Paul Blackburn pitching tomorrow, was because I was leading up to this point of this series, this game, the possible sweep of the Rockies, and the Rockies aren't good. The Mets need to dominate. We need Clay Holmes to give you at least 7 innings today. knowing the fact that you're putting Paul Blackburn in this rotation, you're giving everybody an extra day off just based on the 6-man rotation. Clay Holmes needs to go deep into this game. He needs 6+. I want 7. You got to give me 7 innings because you got to protect this bullpen when you got 7 more games with no off days, and in total 10 games in a row. You can't go 5 innings today, and tomorrow you're going to get 5 innings hopefully from Paul Blackburn, but let's be honest, let's give him 4 or 5 innings. That is 4 to 5. That's about 8 to 9 innings your bullpen has to give to your team into back-to-back games. And that's not included another 6 games after that on the road, 3 more with the Dodgers and 3 more with the Rockies. So that is what the New York Mets have to be looking at here for Clay Holmes. This is a lineup where he can't look a little off like he did against the White Sox. You need 6+, definitely 7 innings from Clay Holmes, or what is the point of giving these guys extra days rest for a 6-man rotation if you're not going to push them? And look, Carlos Mendoza has done a good job of trying to push these guys, but they also haven't done a good enough job, in my opinion, of going deeper into ball games. I think there's still a little bit of a quick hook. As soon as there's trouble and I understand you got to win the ball game and all that, but you also got to understand the fact that you're going to hurt yourself down the road. And I know people say, well, win that game and worry about tomorrow. But when tomorrow comes, the exact problem is what we're going to talk about because of the day before or the prior game before. So will the New York Mets do that? We shall see. Clay Holmes needs to go 6+ innings today. Like anything less than that, I don't care if he's no hitting the team. Don't want a perfect game, but he has 90 pitches in 5 innings. Like, we're going to give him a standing ovation? They probably will because people are brainwashed into pitchers only going 5 innings. The New York Mets need Clay Holmes to go 6+ innings. Get into the 7th inning at the very least. Finish 6. I want you on the mound in the 7th inning trying to get some outs. Now, if he struggles a little bit and, you're trying to, all right, he really doesn't have it. I don't want him to throw 100+ pitches and blah, 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 and keep on going and, make it look worse than it is. Then you can take him out. But he needs to get on the mound in the 7th inning. Just saying. I know people are going to be like, oh, Rob, don't you just want to win a ball game? Sure. But I also don't want to go to LA with a bullpen that has been used in back-to-back days 8+ innings. It's just silly. It's really silly. It shouldn't be the case facing the Rockies and the White Sox. You should be having starting pitching dominating games. And, you seen an excellent performance from Senga yesterday. Really nice. When it comes to Kodai Senga, I like to see what he did there. And look, he has the best ERA in baseball, pitching, 6 1/3. He got to the 7th inning. That's all I want. That's what Kodai Senga did yesterday. He's finished 6 innings, got into the 7th, pitch count was up. Understand they're going to protect him at all costs. I get why they took him out. But he got into the 7th inning, right? You only needed, 2 2/3 to finish up a ball game. That's what I want Clay Holmes to do today. Get into the 7th inning so you don't have to use 4 guys in a game. Hopefully not more than that. Because, again, if you have tomorrow Paul Blackburn going 4 innings, now you got to use more guys, 5 guys, hopefully 3 guys, depending on if you can use a couple of guys that can go multiple innings, which would be nice. But you also want to save your bullpen for the remainder 6 games after you start your road trip on the West Coast. So, it was outstanding what Kodai Senga did yesterday. I love the fact that he went to the 7th inning. He didn't finish it. He got 1 out in the 7th. All right, cool. But look what happened there. Like, you'll see it right now. What is it? You use Buto, you use Davinsky. That's it. An inning and 2/3 for Buto and 1 inning from Davinsky. That's what you want. That's what you want when it comes to needing a start like Senga gave you yesterday, protecting the bullpen. And Clay Holmes needs to do that today. Just imagine, guys, you use Butto and Davinsky yesterday, two guys, because Senga went 6 1/3. Clay Holmes let's say he goes 6 1/3 again, which I'll be perfectly fine when he gets into the 7th. You use two guys again. That means you use four guys in 2 games instead of 4 guys in 1 game back to back. That is huge going into the West Coast trip and huge starting a series against the Dodgers where you have Paul Blackburn starting the game, the series against the Dodgers where you know he's probably not going to go past 85 pitches. He's probably not going to go by the 5th inning, even if he gets to the 5th inning. So you know you're going to be using bullpen arms tomorrow. So what do I want from Clay Holmes, guys? 2 things. Dominate a Rockies lineup that's not good. That's not really good. And to give me 6 innings, but I want you on the mound in the 7th to see if you can get through a 7. Now, if you can't do it, pitch count gets up. You know, he struggles a little bit with location, and it's just like, all right, he looks done. Then you can take him out. But if he's not on the mound in the 7th inning, it's like, come on. Like, if you can't do that against the Rockies, when are you going to do it? And I know Clay Holmes has done it a couple of times. But the 6-man rotation is now in place. You will have an extra day off. This is not all about Senga now. This is about an entire rotation getting a 5th day rest to pitch on a 6th day. That is the whole idea. Giving guys an extra day so they can go deeper and higher pitch counts into their starts. If you can't do that, you failed. It's just that simple, guys. So Clay Holmes, dominate the Rockies lineup. I need you to get on the mound in the 7th inning so you can save this bullpen that is going into a 4-game set against the Dodgers with the start of the series having Paul Blackburn on the mound where you know he's not going to go deep into a game, where you get 5 innings if you're lucky. So Clay Holmes, do what Senga did yesterday. Give you 6 1/3. I take that. I mean, you got on the mound in the 7th inning, and you at least got an out. Give me that. That's what I want from Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes hasn't been good this year. I want more length, and he needs to dominate a lineup, and that's what I want to see from Clay Holmes. When it comes to the New York Mets lineup, guys, I like this lineup a lot. I know a lot of people don't like the Marte in left field. I get why they sat Brandon Nimmo today. You know, he has that issue with that neck, and you worry about that. So I understand giving him a day off when you played, you know, a late afternoon game yesterday and you're playing a day game today. So I understand Nimmo getting a day off. So you got Marte in the number 2 hole playing left field. So, but I like this lineup. Why? Because you got Beatty in the lineup, you got Vientos in the lineup, and you got Acuna in the lineup. Exactly where they should be. And as you see on your screen, the Mets lineup for today is Lindor leading off playing shortstop, Marte batting second playing left field, Juan Soto batting third playing right field, Pete Alonso cleaning up playing first base, Brett Beatty batting 5th playing third base, Luis Torrens catching batting 6th, Mark Vientos DH and batting 7th, Tyrone Taylor playing center field batting 8th, and Luis Angel Acuna playing second base and batting 9th. I like this lineup a lot. I really like this lineup. Because, again, Acuna has been sitting too much. We all know that, right? I don't want to see the kid sit on the bench and not get in his reps. It just doesn't make sense. If you're not going to play him, send him down and let him play every day. Let him develop more. Because, again, right, we all have this little soft spot for Luis Angel Acuna, right? I was more on the lighter side of Luis Angel Acuna because I don't think not playing him every day is helping him. And him being a pinch runner and the occasional pinch hitter is not what I had in mind for Luis Angel Acuna. So the other issue is the fact that Acuna, other than his speed, has not done anything very well. Let's be quite honest about that. Not a run producer, show no power. And again, I'm okay with him not showing any power or being a big run producer. At this point in his career, very young, he is a role player. He is a table setter. He is a guy that needs to learn to get on base until he develops his better hitting skills, which he needs to be batting more. He needs to be getting on base more, less strikeouts. His job is to make sure he puts the bat on the ball, because his job should be hitting that ball no matter where it is. If it's on the ground, he has a chance of beating it out. He needs to learn to contact more. He needs to learn to work counts, get their walks, because when he gets on first base, you know there's a 95% chance it's going to turn into a double because of his speed. So what he's doing here, and I do think at this point now that we see, and Joel just brought it up with Ronnie Mauricio, he's been outstanding in AAA. There is no reason why Luis Angel Acuna will be on this team when Ronnie Mauricio gets called up. They're going to switch them to. Mauricio's going to take Acuna's spot. Acuna's going to go back down to the minors. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a demotion for Luis Angel Acuna. It's just that he needs to develop more, and that's okay. When you got Brett Beatty playing well, when you got Juan Soto looking a little bit better over the days, you got Pete Alonso looking starting to hit better. You got Lindor hitting better. You got Marte hitting well. You got guys in the lineup that are doing their jobs now. So Luis Angel Acuna isn't as needed as once thought. You have a lineup that is supposed to be doing their job. Luis Angel Acuna still needs time to develop. He still needs time. And it's okay. You're 22 years old. Nobody's saying you should be fully developed here and ready to go. I don't think he's really not. He's got to learn to take his walks. He's got to learn more contact. He does that, his speed's going to take care of itself. And again, when I don't want Acuna being a pinch runner. Now, it's nice during games when you need him to. It's a good weapon to have. But yeah, it's helping the team overall, which should be the end-all be-all. But overall, you're not helping the kid develop into what you need him to be. I'm not saying he's going to be a home run guy. He's not going to be a big run producer. He's going to be a doubles machine and a stolen base machine. That's what he needs to be. He's probably going to be a 10 to 15 home run guy. Probably give you, 35, 40 stolen bases, maybe more. And you need that average to be around 270 or so. You need him to be a contact guy that hits the ball in the gaps. That's what you need. And he needs to lower his strikeouts and increase his walks. That's what he's got to do. And let me just see if I can click on the comments, because you guys are putting up those comments really good. And I'm trying to, let's see. Here we go. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, there we go. All right. There you go, Brad. Rob, do you see Vientos getting sent down? I don't. Now, I said that about a week ago. I think me and Chris were talking about it. I think it was on a pregame show and a postgame, one of those shows. The fact that I wouldn't be shocked if Vientos got sent down just to work on his swing a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked. But the lack of playing time for Luis Angel Acuna is glaring. It's telling me that the Mets are probably very close to sending Luis Angel Acuna down for Ronnie Mauricio. And the reason why I don't think Vientos is going to get sent down is the fact that one swing can hit a 3-run homer. I think because of his power potential, as we all seen last year, and the potential of him hitting the ball over the wall. And that's the big reason why Beatty got all these chances, by the way, and why I said the Mets are favoring Beatty over Acuna, even though Acuna has played better than Beatty prior to Beatty coming back up. And they just had to send Brett Beatty down, and Acuna needed to start because Acuna was playing better. But they always favored Brett Beatty over Luis Angel Acuna because Brett Beatty can impact the game more than Luis Angel Acuna at this point. That's not a discouragement for Luis Angel Acuna. It's just that Brett Beatty is at a point in his career where he can help the Mets a lot more than Luis Angel Acuna. And the reason why, because Brett Beatty can provide that power. And I said that for a while, that they love the potential of that power in this lineup. And look what Brett Beatty has done. And again, will this last? Who knows? When the teams start to adjust to Brett Beatty and throwing him other pitches and, throwing him something that he might be weak and have problems hitting, and he can still hit it, then we have a guy that we're like, oh, well, I guess Brett Beatty's going to be our third baseman. But no, to answer your question, Brad, I don't think they're going to send Vientos down anymore. I thought it was a possibility about a week and a half ago, but as me and Chris talked about probably about a week ago, was the fact that the lack of playing time for Luisano Acuna, not pinch running or getting a pinch hit appearance or coming in for defensive replacement late in games, but starting. Hasn't been doing that much. And that tells me that the Mets are on the verge of sending Luisano Acuna down. That might piss some people off, but again, the upside from Brett Beatty that they see in their eyes is much bigger than what Luisano Acuna upside can be, in my opinion, at least up until this point. And I think Brett Beatty is a 20-plus home run guy. I think he can bat 260, 270. They love that power. If the Mets haven't shown you anything else, they love power. This is why Vientos has been so heavily talked about amongst David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza, because they know that any given moment, this guy can go on a week stretch of hitting 4 or 5 home runs, and he's right back where we need him to be. They love the fact that one swing of a bat can lead to a 2-3 run homer. Luisano Acuna, when he comes to the plate, does anybody expect him to hit a 2 or 3 run homer? No. So he doesn't impact the game at the plate as much as Brett Beatty or Mark Vientos can or possibly could. And that is why you're going to see Ronnie Mauricio come up and probably Luisano Acuna sent down. Why? Because what does Ronnie Mauricio have in common right now with Brett Beatty and what we saw from Mark Vientos last year? He can hit the ball over the wall. He has speed. And what he's shown, very limited, but he's a very good defensive player. And Ronnie Mauricio, now with the knee, haven't seen him do a lot of running and stealing bases, but he does have the speed as well. So he not only brings speed to the game like Luisano Acuna, not as fast as Acuna, but he does bring some speed. What Mauricio brings that Acuna doesn't, by the way, Acuna plays the same positions as Luisano Acuna. Mauricio can hit for power, and that's what the Mets think that can be more impactful to their team, especially when you're struggling with runners in scoring position. You need guys to be run producers. Luisano Acuna is not that at this point. Not saying he can't be. I don't believe he's going to be a big run producer, but maybe he becomes a better hitter overall and be a bigger clutch hitter. Maybe he'll just be that type of guy. But right now, I'd rather see Ronnie Mauricio up in a bigger spot, in a run-producing spot, than Luisano Acuna. Because I think the fact that Luisano Acuna has not shown any power and not really that capability of being a run producer, he's not what we need right now. Right now, if Ronnie Mauricio was in this lineup over Luisano Acuna, wouldn't this lineup look a lot better? You could probably put Mauricio, in that 6-7 spot. And now you got a lot more guys that can be run producers. And that is the issue that I have with Luisano Acuna. It's not his fault. Let me just make that clear. Because I know a lot of people think that I don't like Luisano Acuna. That's silly. I've never said I didn't like him. But I think the Mets rushed him for no reason. Let's be honest about that. They didn't need to put him on the opening day roster. I felt like they were pressured to do so. And with that, I think it stopped his growth a little bit, because there's so many areas where Luisano Acuna couldn't get better, and it's hard to do that at the major league level when you're trying to win ball games. You would love to play Luisano Acuna every day, but when he's hurting you at the plate while your team's struggling to score runners in scoring position, those opportunities are going to find you most of the time, and they have. Now, when Acuna's on a base pad, you can see he's the best player in the game when it comes to him on a base path. But he has to get there. And coming in as a pinch runner is awesome, but you're not a top prospect because you can only steal bases. You're a top prospect because you need to be a better hitter. You need to be a better overall player. And there's time for that, especially when Brett Beatty has done his job and Jeff McNeil. Let's not forget about him. Jeff McNeil has been pretty good. A lot better than probably everybody expected. But because Beatty's playing well and McNeil is holding up his end of the bargain, there's not much playing time, number one, for Luis Acuna. But the opportunity is limited for Luis Acuna. And this kid's 22 years old. Why not develop him more? So if you do need him in August, maybe September, he can be a better ball player for you if you need him to be called up. That's why I think the Mets messed up here. And again, Acuna will help us win games. So I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to kill the Mets for that. But overall, is this long-term going to help Luis Acuna even later in the season? Probably not. So with Luis Acuna, it's unfortunate, but because Ronnie Mauricio is lighting it up in AAA right now, and he plays the same positions, and he's a potential power guy and run producer guy, he completely swamps Luis Acuna as the player that the Mets need at this point. Not a guy like Luis Acuna, unfortunately. And again, it's okay. Develop Luis Acuna. Maybe in August and September, we're going to need him. Just like we did last year. Very strong possibility. So, Lounge, I'm not going to say, let me see if I can click on this comment. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a mistake. The Mets are 15 games over 500. 14, excuse me. The Mets are 14 games over 500 on the verge of being 15 games over 500 if they win today. They've played, their record is very good. They've been clear of that 9-10 game over 500 mark or more for a while now. Jose Iglesias is on the San Diego Padres, right? The Padres were a good team prior to Jose Iglesias getting here. Jose Iglesias turned a bad team last year in the New York Mets the first 2 months of the season and helped them turn it around. But I can't tell you that Jose Iglesias was going to help this team more because we just don't know that. You know, we fall in love with the gimmick instead of the actual player. Jose Iglesias was really good as a player. But it turned into more of OMG gimmick than what the team actually did as a whole. And without Jose Iglesias, they're 14 games over 500 on the verge of 15 games over 500, tied for the NL East. Where everybody told me that the Mets were not going to see first place again. And they did it within a week. So I don't care about Jose Iglesias. Jose Iglesias is history at this point. He does not affect the New York Mets now. Now, I think in the beginning, we might have missed that spark a little bit. But I don't think Jose Iglesias was going to turn a lineup around where nobody was hitting and runners in scoring position. Because if you really think about it, you know who's the Jose Iglesias this year? Luis Torrens, a guy that nobody expected to be a big part of this offense. And he's the most clutch hitter on this team in Luis Torrens, just like Jose Iglesias was, who wasn't supposed to be a big part of this team last year. So the fact of the matter is that this Mets team is 14 games over 500. Have they been good with runners in scoring position? No. But I don't think for a second that Jose Iglesias was going to change that, because it's been a team effort of terribleness with runners in scoring position. So I'm not shocked that people are going to complain about Jose Iglesias, but there's no need to. Because that means Brett Beatty might have not got more of an opportunity. Let's be honest, guys. If Jose Iglesias was on this team, Luis Acuna would have never seen a light of day on this major league team on opening day. 100%. So you would have seen Acuna, and there would have been no conversation about Acuna. So It is what it is. And Joel, I do agree with you. I've been saying this for a while, and this is why I get frustrated with the Mets when it comes to stockpiling your farm system the way the Mets have. And now you have a logjam in this infield because of prospects. And now there's too many conversations about, well, if this guy plays here, this guy plays there, why is he getting sent down? Because there's nowhere to play these guys. If you need to develop these guys, you can't sit them on the roster and sit them on the bench. This is why it's idiotic, and why I believe, and they need to, as Joel just said, I've been saying this for a while. They should have done it last year when they were the best. They were turning it around in the last June and July, and the trade deadline was coming. They needed to do something bigger, and the bigger thing was getting more pitching. And they got half-ass pitching in Blackburn. They needed to do more. Now, there's no excuse at all. Whatever they might need at the deadline, they need to get, and they can't hug the prospects. I don't care if Acuna's in the deal. I don't care if Gilbert's in the deal. I don't care if, any of these guys. Honestly, right? I haven't heard Met fans talk about Sprout. What happened? Oh, he's been shitty in spring training, in AAA. Right? I don't care. I don't care what the Mets need. The Mets, if they're going to remain around this mark of 13, 14, 15 games over 500, that means you're going to be one of the best teams in the National League, one of the best teams in baseball. You know what that tells me? That they're contenders for a championship. And what do contenders do at the deadline? They get better. Not a little better, much better. You need starting pitching, you get the top three guys on, one of the top three guys on the market. You're struggling with hitting. If you want to bring in another bat, go ahead, but don't get a Vogelback. Go get a better hitter. Guys like that. Like that's the issue that I have. That is the shit that I complained about in 2022 when they were afraid to give up prospects, when they were the best team in baseball. They weren't willing to do it. They got half-ass guys in rough Vogelback and Naquin and Givens, who wasn't he was all right, but nothing special. So you made a great team into the same team with a couple of guys that weren't much better. They did it again last year. They needed starting pitching. They were so infatuated. Oh, look what Manaea is doing. Look what this guy's doing. Look what Severino. Look at Quintana. Look at David Peterson. Blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they broke down when it mattered the most in the NLCS. They ran out of gas. You need a guy that needed to step up in the postseason. Not saying that if they would have got a Blake Snell or somebody of that ilk, that it would have made the difference. But when you have guys running on fumes in the third round of the playoffs because you were a wild card team, what did you expect with guys that hasn't pitched that many innings in years? That's why I got frustrated. That they never do the big move. They do middle of the road moves that shuts Met fans up, but when it ultimately comes down to, they weren't good enough. This is the year. You better go for it. You don't sign Juan Soto for $765 million. Bring back Pete Alonso for $30 million. Pay Nimmo to be a center fielder who's not a center fielder anymore. And save these prospects for God knows what. Just so people could say you have a good farm system. Did you see what the Dodgers did? Tanner Scott, not pitching well. You know what? We're going to get Alexis Diaz. And they did it in the end of May. They don't wait to get better. Do the Dodgers really need another pitcher in their bullpen? They just signed Tanner Scott to a godful lot of money. And they get Alexis Diaz. They traded one of their better prospects for him. Now they got multiple years with Alexis Diaz under control. You see the difference here? Teams that go that extra mile, knowing what they need and going after the best available. And I've been talking about this for years. The Braves did it. The Dodgers did it. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, look at the teams over the last 4 or 5 years that made big trades to get their team better at what they needed, and they got, if it wasn't the big guy, it was the next one. You don't get, you don't look for the first and second guy on the market, and then you end up with the 10th guy. Like, that doesn't help your team. Sorry, it doesn't. So whatever the Mets need, and again, it's too early to tell. We're 2 months out for the trade deadline. So I can't tell you. Now, I still believe they're going to need a starting pitcher. Now, I don't think the Mets believe that, but let it play out. If the Mets need a bullpen arm, for whatever reason, whatever it is, you get that. And you get the best one on the market or close to the best one. Nobody in this farm system should stop you from getting anybody that's on the market. Nobody. From the best player to the third best player. If you got to give a guy that you really don't want to give, but it gets you that guy to make this team better, and this team is where they are, one of the best teams in baseball, one of, if not one of the best teams in the National League, you are considered a contender. That means you make the playoffs, you are World Series contenders. You don't half-ass a deadline again, because we're going to talk about the same thing over again. They didn't do enough, and they're waiting for the guys that are already here to do it who have not proved it. And then when you get guys that are not as good at the deadline, what did you expect? You got Paul Blackburn to help you pitching, who wasn't even pitching in the playoffs. Stupid. So, with the Mets today, and I went on that long rant because it's starting to get to the point now where the logjam is apparent now. Now that people actually see it, they talk about it now. And I do appreciate Joel bringing that up in the comments, because that was going to be a topic of conversation on one of the off days after this West Coast trip, what I was going to talk about. There's a logjam that is messing with the Mets and not knowing probably what to do with some of these guys. I'll give you a hint. Trade them. Don't waste time. And I'm not saying now. I'm just saying in general. Because this logjam is causing unnecessary conversations when these guys can't all get playing time. I've said this for a long time. At some point, you got to make the move. It might not be very crowd-pleasing. It might upset some of the fan base, but they'll be okay if you're winning ball games. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is what the Mets do on the field, what their record is, how they play in the playoffs. That's all that matters. I'm sorry. If the Mets, when they traded Pete Crow Armstrong, if Javi Baez got us to the point where nobody thought of and it got us to a World Series, why do I care about what PCA is doing now with the Chicago White Cubs? The reason why you should be complaining about it was because that team was never good enough and you made that big trade for no reason, because it wasn't going to make us that much better as an average team. It's different now. It was different in 2022. It's different now. You tell us, Mets have told us, they believe this team is contenders. I believe that. Well, you prove it, because I don't want to see the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Phillies and the Padres making trades to make their team better and not worried about giving up top prospects, but making their team better to go for that World Series championship. If the Mets not going to do that again, then when are you going to do it? If you're not going to do it now, then they're never going to do it. And I hope Stearns proves me wrong, because there's no reason not to do it this year, especially if they're in the position they are in 2 months. Let's say they are 12, 13, 14 games over 500. That's going to put them right around the best record in the National League and the top 5 teams in baseball. So when are you going to do it? So overall, the Mets have, record-wise, have been really good. They've been still finding ways to win. They've been almost unbeatable at home this year. What is it, 23-7, if I'm not mistaken, 27-7 or whatever it is. I know it's over 20 games now that they won, and like less than 10 games that they lost. 22-7, 23-7. Continue today by sweeping the Colorado Rockies. Clay Holmes, I want Lent. You're on a 10-game stretch now with no off days. Paul Blackburn will be in this rotation tomorrow. That gives everybody an extra day's rest. There is no excuse not to go 7 innings. Get into the 7th. I would love for you to finish the 7th, but get into the 7th to protect our bullpen for this stretch of games with no off days. The lineup, beat up on Palmquist. He's not very good. He has almost a 9 ERA. Right? This game should be over in the 2nd inning, kind of like it was yesterday. With that said, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show. I will be doing a post-game show today whenever the game is over, around 4:30. Whenever that game is over, I'll be doing a post-game show solo. Chris is busy today, so we cannot do it. So make sure you tune into the post-game show after the game. Thank you for watching, guys. Enjoy the game, and let's go Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field, orange and blue vibes.